Welcome once again, second time really, to Coffee with Don, at least through the pastoral portal. Is that the right word? Anyway, uh, sorry I forgot about last night. That is kind of embarrassing. It happens. It happens. Um, at church, we've kind of gotten used to, we start our services at Lincoln Park, Linwood United Methodist Church at 10 a.m. on Sundays. But, we've gotten a little casual about starting exactly on time. A lot of times it's 3 or 4 minutes after. Um, Feels kinda European in a way, I guess, but I'm not gonna start having those longer sermons like they tend to do. Anyway, um, we're just trying this as an experiment. Looks like there's at least a couple of folks on with us live. I don't know if you can figure out your technology, if you want to say hi in the chat. I'm able to see it in a little chat window down here. Don't have to, but it's just kind of nice to know if we got folks on. Um, when I was growing up, every Sunday, every Wednesday, you were getting together with the church folks, forming community, and of course that was in a small town and all that sort of thing. Um, Boy, things have gotten so busy. And you couple that with other factors. We used to have Wednesday night choir practice, kind of got away from the Bible study, and then the pandemic hit, and we've just never really gone back to doing things on a Wednesday nights. And there's nothing special about Wednesday. It's just midweek. It's a good opportunity to check in with each other. I think if we'd had this Substack technology during the pandemic, it would have been a whole lot easier. We put our services online, went for a year or two there, just doing things virtually. And this would have been simpler, but it just occurred to me that this might be a way for us to check in with each other halfway through the week, do a little bit of connecting, get a little bit of coffee. So we'll try to do this every Wednesday. Not sure of the time. It will depend on what else is going on during the day. But if you saw my note earlier today, we really intended to do this on a Wednesday. I got involved in writing or something, and anyway, I looked up and it's 12:35 a.m. Little late to do a coffee with Don, at least with the church folks. So, yeah, I know this is not Wednesday, this is Thursday. But since we missed last week, I thought, well, I'll just go ahead and do one, and we'll go ahead and put the recording up as well, just for folks who weren't able to be with us live. Just kind of see how things are going with you. Things are unsettled, I guess you would say, with the world. That's too weak of a word, but I'm not quite sure what else to say. People are concerned, worried. There's everyday worries. There's worries about the nation. There's worries about the world. The thing is, I'm not sure there's ever been a time when there wasn't something like that. We're better able to be aware of those things now. But when you look at what happened with the Roman Empire, you look at the Middle Ages, you look at maybe this country in the Civil War, even before that, do you realize that War of 1812, a couple of hundred years ago, during that war, the war ended, but it took weeks to get word out about that. In fact, one of the major battles of the War of 1812 happened after it was supposedly over. So we find out about things so quickly now. Have to mention there were a couple of sad incidents in the news today, and not to dwell on the news, but there was an incident where somebody drove into a Jewish synagogue up north. I don't have it in front of me right now. Honestly, I'm sorry. I can't remember exactly where. Maybe if somebody on the chat reminds me. But Fortunately, my understanding is there was one person injured, and the only person to die was that's sad enough, but the only person to die was the person who tried to commit the violence. But then there was another incident in Virginia where somebody went into, I think, a classroom, certainly a college campus, and shot a couple of people. And we find out about this kind of thing as it's happening. So I don't want to minimize it at all. It's just that if it feels like the world is getting worse, I'm not sure it is. But that's not saying anything really good. The world has always been challenging. So I've been thinking about this lately. Um, Comes up with me a lot, honestly. So this is not new. In fact, it's very old. I believe I remember the right term here. It's called the problem of theodicy. Basically, why is there evil in the world? Some scholars think the book of Job is the oldest book in the Bible in terms of when it was written. And if that's the case, you can read that book and you can see, especially Job's friends, but even Job, kind of accepts the idea that if God is a good God, there just shouldn't be evil in the world. And they're trying to understand that. And the last 4 or 5 chapters of the book of Job, basically God saying to Job, and then he tells him to go tell his friends this, basically saying to Job, you can't understand it. You just can't. I can't explain it to you. All-powerful God, how could an all-powerful God explain things to limited humans? Folks in the church have heard me talk numerous times about what I call dog and cat theology. And the simple version of it is there is absolutely no way that I could have explained to my dog, who used to look at me with that quizzical look, the way a dog looks at a ceiling fan, that kind of look. Why is he rushing around there, grabbing that briefcase and shoving food in his mouth? The dog not only could not understand the concept of having to get to work on time, I couldn't explain it to the dog. So the amazing thing is that the gist of the book of Job being that you can't understand it, I can't explain it to you. Instead of trying to explain it, God came here in the person of Jesus and lived as one of us. We have not been abandoned. We are not alone. So I can't really answer theologically. I'm not going to solve overnight what theologians have wrestled with for well before the time of Jesus. You can go back at least 4,000 years and find arguing about that. I'm not going to come up with an answer tonight, but I will take hope and comfort in the idea that God understands. God hurts with us. We're not alone. And not to make too big of a thing here what we're doing on Wednesday nights, that's part of the reason I wanted to do Coffee with Donn. Just to help somebody who might need a little bit of that feeling, of, I'm not alone. Your circumstances are unique, no doubt about that. But in a lot of ways, your circumstances you have in common with what humans have always wrestled with: grief, loss, exhaustion, those bigger categories. Nobody can understand your situation directly. But if we open ourselves up, we can at least understand in general that life is a challenge and we can help each other along the way. I'll turn to somebody from a different religious tradition. I grew up, in the 60s and 70s, and there was a guru, I guess you would call him, who wrote a book called Be Here Now. Um, Technically, I guess the roots are in the Hindu religion. His name was Ram Dass. And one of the things he said has always stuck with me. He said, really, when you get right down to it, we're all just walking each other home. And there's a lot of that in the family of God. We're keeping each other company. We're supporting each other. We're encouraging each other. We're walking each other home. I hope that you do have a sense of connection, a sense of belonging, of being in the family. And, it's not about pointing to others and saying you're outsiders. There's way too much of that. But we can avoid that mistake, that sin, I would go so far as to call it. So much of what God told Israel in what we would call the Old Testament. Welcome the strangers, be kind to those who are outsiders. Certainly, the parable of the Good Samaritan teaches us about that sort of thing. While we avoid the mistake of what? Putting down the outsider, we can enjoy the sense of being connected. Not inside versus outside, but connection. And I hope that maybe that will help to make your week a little bit better. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up today, folks. Enjoy a little more coffee. Invite you to keep an eye on the notices. You can subscribe here for free, pastordon.substack.com, and then that way you'll get notified when we're planning a live chat. But like I said, we may or may not do it every week, but we're going to try to do it as often as we can. And you let me know in the chat. You won't see the chat, by the way, if you see the recording. You can make a comment on the post that will go along with this. Drop me a message. Send me an email at pastor.don.king@gmail.com. Let me know if this is useful to you. And if it's not, let me know that too, because, there's no use in doing this unless it serves somehow. But I hope it does serve. And we will see you the next time. I bid you, as we close out services on Sundays, I think it's worthwhile saying something similar here. I bid you to go now in peace. And may the Lord Jesus Christ bless you. Take care.